They called them crazy, delusional, impossible dreamers who would never amount to anything. But these 8 visionaries didn't just prove the world wrong. They became billionaires and changed humanity forever. This is Success Mind Series number 8. And by the end of this video, you'll understand why being called crazy might be the greatest compliment you can receive. Number 8. Elon Musk. When Elon said he'd make electric cars mainstream, they laughed. When he said he'd send rockets to space cheaper than NASA, they called him delusional. When he said he'd colonize Mars, they said he was completely insane. The man who would become the world's richest person was once sleeping on friends' couches, showering at the YMCA. His first company, Zip2, was rejected by every major newspaper. PayPal's early days were so chaotic that the system crashed daily. But here's what separated Elon from everyone else. He didn't just dream big, he calculated big. While others saw impossibility, he saw engineering problems waiting to be solved. Today, Tesla is worth over $800 billion. SpaceX revolutionized space travel, and that crazy man is literally reshaping the future of humanity. Number 7. Jeff Bezos. In 1994, when Jeff told people he was quitting his Wall Street job to sell books online, they thought he'd lost his mind. Books? Online? Who would buy books without touching them first? His own parents thought he was crazy. His boss tried to talk him out of it. Even his wife's friends whispered that she'd married a dreamer who would never succeed. Jeff started Amazon in his garage, packing books himself, driving packages to the post office in his Honda Civic. For years, Amazon lost money. Investors called it Amazon.bomb. The media said it would never be profitable. But Jeff had a 20-year vision when everyone else was thinking in quarters. That crazy bookseller is now worth $170 billion, and Amazon touches nearly every aspect of modern life. Number 6. Mark Cuban. Before he was a billionaire investor on Shark Tank, Mark was just a crazy kid from Pittsburgh with wild ideas. He got fired from his first job for closing a big sale instead of opening the store. His boss called him recklessly ambitious. When Mark started MicroSolutions, people said a college dropout couldn't compete with IBM. When he sold it for $6 million and started Broadcast.com, they said streaming video over the internet was impossible. The bandwidth doesn't exist. Mark worked 18-hour days, slept on the office floor, and lived on peanut butter sandwiches. Everyone said he was crazy for believing the internet would change everything. Then Yahoo bought Broadcast.com for $5.7 billion. That crazy dreamer became a billionaire at 40 and proved that sometimes the craziest ideas are just ahead of their time. Number 5. Richard Branson. Dyslexic. High school dropout. Told by teachers he'd never amount to anything. When 16-year-old Richard started a magazine called Student, adults called it a crazy waste of time. When he started Virgin Records in his basement, the music industry laughed. A teenager competing with major labels? Impossible. When he launched Virgin Atlantic to compete with British Airways, they called him suicidal. Airlines are where millionaires go to become thousandaires. But Richard had something his critics didn't: the courage to be crazy. He understood that every industry has rules, and rules are meant to be broken. Virgin Records discovered the Sex Pistols. Virgin Atlantic revolutionized air travel. Today, the Virgin Group is worth over $4 billion, and that crazy dyslexic dropout owns his own island. Number 4. Sarah Blakely. A door-to-door fax machine saleswoman with a crazy idea: women needed better undergarments. When Sarah cut the feet off her pantyhose to create the first Spanx prototype, everyone thought she'd lost her mind. She spent 2 years being rejected by every manufacturer. Women don't need this, they said. It's a crazy idea that will never work. Sarah had no business experience, no fashion background, no connections. But she had something more powerful. She understood a problem that half the world's population faced. She invested her life savings of $5,000, worked nights and weekends for 2 years. Today, Spanx is worth over $1 billion, and that crazy fax machine seller became the world's youngest self-made female billionaire. Number 3. Jack Ma. The English teacher from China who couldn't even get a job at KFC. They rejected him along with 29 other applicants. When Jack first saw the internet in 1995, he had a crazy idea: bring Chinese businesses online. Everyone called him delusional. Chinese people don't trust online shopping, they said. E-commerce will never work in China. Even his own employees thought he was crazy when he gathered 18 people in his apartment and said they'd build something bigger than Amazon. Jack was rejected by Harvard 10 times. He failed his college entrance exam twice. But he had an unshakable belief that the internet would transform China. He worked 16-hour days, slept in the office, and refused to give up. Today, Alibaba is worth over $200 billion, and that crazy English teacher became one of Asia's richest men. Sometimes being crazy is just being early. Number 2. Oprah Winfrey. Born into poverty, told she was too emotional for television, too black for mainstream media, too fat for Hollywood. When Oprah said she'd create a media empire, they called her crazy. She was fired from her first television job for being unfit for television news. Producers said her style was too personal, too emotional. Serious journalism doesn't work that way, they said. But Oprah understood something revolutionary. People didn't just want information, they wanted connection. While others focused on what was happening in the world, she focused on what was happening in people's hearts. That crazy approach built a $2.8 billion empire. The woman they said was unfit for TV became the most influential media personality in history. Number 1. Michael Dell, the 19-year-old college student who had a crazy idea: sell computers directly to customers, cutting out the middleman. When Michael started Dell Computer from his dorm room, industry experts called it impossible. Customers need to touch computers before buying, they said. Direct sales will never work for complex technology. Even his parents thought he was crazy for dropping out of pre-med to sell computers. But Michael saw what others missed. Customers wanted customization and better prices, not fancy showrooms. He started with $1,000, built computers to order, and sold them directly. That crazy college dropout built Dell into a $100 billion company and became the youngest CEO ever to earn a ranking on the Fortune 500. 8 visionaries, 8 crazy ideas, $8 billion empires. What separated these legends from everyone else wasn't intelligence or luck. It was their willingness to be called crazy. Here's the truth. Every breakthrough in human history started with someone being called crazy. The Wright brothers were crazy for thinking humans could fly. Steve Jobs was crazy for putting 1,000 songs in your pocket. So the next time someone calls your dreams crazy, smile. You're in excellent company. The question isn't whether your idea is crazy, it's whether you're crazy enough to pursue it when everyone else says it's impossible. This is Success Mind Series number 8. If this inspired you to embrace your crazy, smash that like button, subscribe for more stories that prove impossible is just an opinion, and remember, your current situation is not your final destination.